Imagine holding in your hand a simple 1-cent coin, a penny that most people would overlook or even drop on the ground without a second thought. But what if I told you that a particular 1982 USA 1-cent coin could be worth a staggering $26 million? Yes, you heard that right, a tiny copper-colored coin minted in 1982, a year that marked one of the most important transitions in U.S. coinage history, has captured the fascination of collectors, historians, and investors all around the world. Because of its rare variations, minting errors, and the sheer story behind its production, and today we dive into the unbelievable journey of this coin, how an everyday object became a piece of treasure worth big money, and why this coin has become one of the most talked about collectibles in history, because 1982 was not just any year for the U.S. Mint. It was the year they switched from producing cents made of nearly pure copper to a new composition of copper-plated zinc, a change driven by rising copper prices that made it too expensive to keep making pennies the old way, and the shift created multiple varieties of the 1982 cent, some made of copper, some of zinc, and some with small date or large date designs, and all of these variations gave birth to one of the most complex and intriguing chapters in coin collecting, making the 1982 penny a true enigma that could be hiding in plain sight in your pocket change. Imagine the rush of adrenaline if you pulled out a coin jar from your childhood and discovered that inside it sat a coin potentially worth millions. The 1982 cent exists in 8 different varieties when you count copper and zinc compositions, small date and large date designs, and coins struck at different mints like Philadelphia and Denver. And among these varieties, certain ones are exceptionally rare, and in the world of numismatics, rarity equals value. But what really skyrocketed the attention on the 1982 cent was the discovery of transitional errors. Coins that somehow ended up being struck in the wrong metal for their year, like a 1982 penny made of copper when it should have been zinc, or vice versa, and these transitional errors are some of the most valuable coins ever known, with collectors willing to pay millions to secure them, because they represent a mistake in history, a tangible piece of evidence of how unpredictable minting processes can be, and to think that such a mistake could turn a penny into a multi-million-dollar fortune is absolutely mind-blowing. But beyond the technical details, what makes this story truly captivating is the human connection to it, because every coin has passed through hands, carried in pockets, exchanged in stores, forgotten in drawers, and yet one single coin from 1982 managed to survive and stand out in a way that defies all odds. Collectors have told stories of finding strange-feeling pennies, heavier than normal or lighter than expected, and upon testing, realizing they had stumbled upon one of the rarest transitional cents ever made. And these stories fuel the dream of ordinary people suddenly discovering life-changing wealth in what seemed like spare change. And this dream is what makes the 1982 penny legendary, because it blurs the line between everyday object and priceless artifact, and it challenges us to rethink value, to reconsider the way we look at the most ordinary things in our lives. The sheer fact that a coin designed to represent the lowest denomination in American currency could carry a value of $26 million tells us something profound about history, economics, and human curiosity. And to understand why the value of such a coin could reach these astronomical heights, we must look at the world of coin auctions, where wealthy collectors, museums, and investors compete to secure treasures that are both historically significant and visually unique. Because in auctions, it's not just about the metal or the weight, it's about the story, the rarity, and the passion it ignites. And the 1982 penny has all these elements rolled into one, a coin born from a time of transition, carrying errors that were never meant to exist, and preserved by pure chance, making it one of the ultimate holy grails of coin collecting. And when news spread about one of these coins being valued at $26 million, it wasn't just collectors who took notice. It became a viral sensation. Ordinary people across the country started digging through jars of pennies, parents and grandparents began checking old change boxes, kids started looking through their allowances hoping for a jackpot, and this treasure hunt created a wave of excitement unlike anything seen before in modern coin collecting, because the idea that you could find wealth hidden in something as ordinary as a penny resonates deeply with people. It symbolizes hope, luck, and the idea that fortune can strike anyone, anywhere, and at any time. But to fully appreciate the uniqueness of the 1982 penny, we must delve into the details of its varieties, because that's where the treasure hunt really begins. First you have the copper cents weighing about 3.11 grams, and then you have the zinc cents weighing about 2.5 grams, and within each category, there are large date and small date versions, each with distinctive design features that experienced collectors can spot at a glance. For example, in the small date version, the 2 in 1982 has a sharp curve and the numbers appear thinner, while in the large date version, the numbers are thicker and bolder, and these subtle details matter tremendously in identifying the true value of the coin. Now imagine adding to this mix a coin struck on the wrong planchet, meaning a 1982 copper cent when it was supposed to be zinc, and you have one of the rarest coins imaginable. And this is exactly what makes the 1982 penny a phenomenon in coin collecting, because it is not just one coin, but a series of possibilities, mysteries, and rare treasures waiting to be found. And when collectors talk about the $26 million penny, they are talking about the pinnacle of this mystery, the most valuable and elusive piece among the 1982 varieties, the one that stands out as a true miracle of minting history. But beyond just the numbers and minting mistakes, this coin represents a story about America itself in the early 1980s. When inflation was high, the economy was shifting, and even something as simple as the penny had to be redesigned to keep up with rising costs. It reflects the struggle between tradition and change, because the copper penny had been a part of American life for decades, and yet the harsh realities of economics forced a move to cheaper zinc. And within this story of change, mistakes happened, and those mistakes gave us coins worth fortunes. So when we talk about the 1982 penny being worth $26 million, we are also talking about a slice of history that is both accidental and intentional, ordinary and extraordinary, forgotten and unforgettable. And the very idea of this penny challenges us to think about value in new ways, because if a single cent can be worth millions, then perhaps value is not always about the material itself, but about the rarity, the story, and the meaning we attach to it. And as we look at the incredible journey of the 1982 penny, from minting presses to collectors' showcases, from spare change to headlines, we can't help but marvel at the twists and turns of history that made this coin what it is today. And this story continues to inspire treasure hunters, hobbyists, and dreamers everywhere, proving that the smallest objects can hold the greatest surprises. So next time you see a penny lying on the ground or sitting at the bottom of a jar, remember that it could be more than just a cent. It could be history, it could be treasure, it could be life-changing, and who knows, maybe the next $26 million coin is waiting right there in your pocket. And if you enjoyed diving into the world of rare coins, the mystery of the 1982 penny, and the incredible value hidden in plain sight, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories about treasures, history, and the unbelievable secrets of the coins you carry every day. Next. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coins, a story that has left collectors, historians, and treasure hunters talking for years, and that is the 2001 1 cent coin, a simple penny at first glance but with errors and mistakes that have elevated its value to a shocking $2.7 million, turning it from pocket change into life-changing wealth. And throughout this journey we will explore why such an ordinary coin from the Denver Mint has become so extraordinary, what types of errors and minting mistakes make it so valuable, and how possibilities surrounding rarity, demand, and numismatic intrigue have caused it to skyrocket in value. And as we dive deep into this narrative, we'll unfold layer after layer of history, technical details, collector psychology, and market trends that together build the foundation for this incredible price tag. So let us begin by considering the year 2001 itself, a year that saw billions of Lincoln cents produced, most made of copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams and carrying the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, struck at both Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the Denver Mint coins marked by the D Mint mark. And in such massive production runs, the chances for small mistakes naturally rise. Yet usually those mistakes go unnoticed or are so minor they add only a few dollars of premium to collectors, but in certain rare cases the errors are dramatic, striking, and visually obvious, and that is what sets apart the 2001 1 cent that sold for $2.7 million. And to understand this we need to break down the categories of errors that occurred and why collectors go wild for them. So imagine a mistrike, where the coin fails to seat properly between the dies and the design is struck off-center, sometimes only slightly but other times dramatically, leaving blank areas of planchet exposed, and the more extreme the misalignment, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes. And then think about double strikes, where the coin is struck once and then shifts slightly before being struck again, creating a ghost-like duplicate of Lincoln's face or the Lincoln Memorial, often called a doubled image. And when this happens on a date as relatively recent as 2001, the result is an eye-catching piece that cannot be ignored. But beyond mechanical mistrikes there are planchet errors, where the blank metal disc itself has a flaw. Maybe it was improperly alloyed, leaving bubbles, cracks, or laminations in the surface, or maybe a foreign object became fused during striking, creating an odd inclusion. And then there are die errors, caused by imperfections in the dies themselves, like die cracks that leave raised lines across the coin, or cuds where a piece of the die breaks off leaving a blank raised blob of metal on the struck coin, and sometimes dies are improperly prepared causing doubled dies, where the lettering or numbers appear doubled due to a misalignment in the hubbing process, and these doubled dies are among the most famous errors in numismatic history, such as the famous 1955 doubled die cent, and so when such phenomena are found in a 2001 cent they draw intense attention. But what makes the $2.7 million example so astonishing is that it reportedly combined multiple error features, stacking rarity upon rarity, and that combination is what transforms it from being worth a few thousand into millions. Because in the coin world rarity is everything, and when you combine rarity with historical intrigue and collector demand, you have the perfect recipe for astronomical prices. And now let us think about why the Denver Mint in particular could produce such an anomaly, because the Denver facility, tasked with producing enormous quantities of circulating coins, often runs its machinery under great stress, and even the smallest lapse in die maintenance or quality control can lead to unusual results. And in 2001 that meant that somewhere in the massive output, a penny slipped through that contained errors so unique that no other examples like it have ever been verified, making it essentially one of a kind. And when something is one of a kind in numismatics, it transcends its face value entirely, becoming not just a coin but a piece of art, a historical accident, and a treasure. And to fully appreciate the scale of its value, we should compare it to other famous coins, like the 1943 copper penny worth hundreds of thousands, or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel worth millions. And in that company the 2001 error cent holds its own, reminding us that not only old coins can be valuable, but even modern coins, if their mistakes are rare enough, and collectors, driven by both passion and competition, are willing to pay fortunes to own them. And another factor that contributes to its value is the mystery, because so little is publicly known about how exactly the error occurred, sparking debates among numismatists, some suggesting it was a dramatic off-center strike combined with a double strike and die crack, others believing it may have involved a broad strike error where the coin was struck without a collar allowing it to spread wider than usual, and still others speculating about a combination of planchet flaw and die deterioration. And in these discussions lies the allure of error coins, because they are puzzles, physical riddles made of metal, and their stories are not only told in auction catalogs but also in the microscopic details of their surfaces. And when wealthy collectors see such puzzles, they don't just see a coin, they see the thrill of owning a mystery, a conversation piece, and a bragging right. And that psychology pushes bidding wars to extremes, which explains how a penny, the lowest denomination of US currency, could leap to $2.7 million. And think about the irony here, a coin that was designed to be worth 1 cent, so common that we often overlook it or even toss it aside, suddenly becomes more valuable than houses, cars, or even luxury goods. And that irony makes the story all the more captivating for audiences, because it shows that hidden treasures may still lie in the most ordinary places, perhaps even in your pocket change. And imagine the possibilities. You empty your pocket one day, see a dull 2001 penny, and upon closer inspection you notice the date looks slightly off or the strike seems unusual, and you realize you are holding a fortune. And this dream of discovery fuels the treasure hunting side of coin collecting, encouraging millions of people to look more closely at their change. And that collective excitement keeps the market alive. And speaking of markets, the numismatic market has its own dynamics, with prices influenced not only by rarity but also by trends, publicity, and timing. So when a coin like this appears at auction, it makes headlines, and the media coverage itself amplifies its fame and value, because suddenly more collectors want it. And even though only one exists, the story of its existence raises awareness of error coins in general, lifting interest and prices across the category. And this ripple effect means that even more ordinary 2001 cents with smaller errors may become valuable, though not nearly as much, perhaps selling for hundreds or thousands, but always connected to the myth of the $2.7 million penny, and in a way that myth is as important as the coin itself. Because storytelling has power in collectibles, turning objects into legends. And the 2001 error cent is exactly that, a legend of modern coinage, a symbol that even in our age of high-tech minting, perfection is not guaranteed, and that imperfection itself can become priceless. And as we think about the broader implications, we see how this coin bridges past and present, because collectors often chase old coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, but this coin reminds us that the future treasures are being minted right now. And maybe in 20 years we will discover another modern cent with equally stunning errors. And this anticipation keeps collectors engaged across generations. And so to conclude this exploration, we can say that the 2001 D1 cent valued at $2.7 million is more than just a penny with mistakes. It is a story of human error, mechanical imperfection, collector passion, market psychology, and the never-ending search for rarity, and it teaches us that value is not always in the material but in the uniqueness, in the narrative, and in the demand, and that is why this humble cent has entered the Hall of Fame of American coinage. And before we wrap up, remember that treasures can still be out there, maybe even in your wallet, so keep looking, keep collecting, and keep chasing history through coins. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unbelievable story of the 2001 D $2.7 million penny, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more incredible stories of coins worth fortunes hiding in plain sight. Today we are going to uncover the unbelievable story behind the 1995 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and historians with a staggering valuation of $7.13 million, and it's not because of its simple face value or everyday use in circulation, but rather because of the incredible errors, minting mistakes, and rare possibilities that make it one of the most sought-after coins in numismatic history. So if you have ever wondered how a humble penny could turn into a multi-million-dollar collectible, this is the journey you need to hear, because we are going to explore every angle of its story, the minting history, the errors that slipped past quality control, the variations that stunned experts, the auction records, and the unbelievable potential for people like you and me to stumble across something similar tucked away in an old jar, drawer, or family collection. And as we peel back the layers of this tale, you'll see how one seemingly ordinary coin struck in 1995 became an icon of era coin collecting. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the United States Mint in the mid-1990s, a time when billions of Lincoln cents were struck for circulation, most of them common copper-plated zinc coins with little value beyond 1 cent, but in that massive sea of production, a handful of mistakes created coins with doubling, off-centering, die clashes, planchet errors, and even misaligned dies, and those rare survivors became instant legends among collectors, because error coins are like accidents frozen in metal, rare snapshots of what happens when machines and humans make mistakes in the minting process. Now the 1995 1 cent stands out for a particularly famous error known as the double die, where the design elements on the coin appear doubled because of a misalignment during the die creation process. And while some double dies are minor and barely noticeable, the 1995 double die variety is dramatic, clear, and visible even to the naked eye, particularly on the inscriptions like Liberty and I in God We Trust, and collectors went wild when these coins started surfacing. Suddenly ordinary people who had just pulled pennies from change found themselves holding a coin worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, and over the years, as pristine uncirculated examples were discovered, their value climbed higher and higher, with the most flawless pieces achieving astronomical sums. Now imagine a coin not only displaying this dramatic double die but also featuring additional layers of errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, or even rare transitional planchets. Suddenly you have a combination so unique that it becomes essentially one of a kind, and it is in this world of compounded rarity that we find the story of the 1995 1 cent valued at $7.13 million, because collectors and wealthy investors recognize that uniqueness translates directly into value. But let's break down why the errors matter so much. When a coin shows doubling, especially on iconic words like Liberty, it instantly catches attention. It signals that something went wrong in the die-making process and that only a small batch of such coins could exist before the error was caught and corrected. Rarity drives value, and then add in the condition, because a coin that has circulated heavily might only bring a few $100s, but a coin in gem mint state, preserved perfectly without scratches or wear, can leap into the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when a specimen surfaces with unmatched perfection and dramatic errors combined, you're looking at a showpiece worthy of multi-million-dollar valuation. And this is exactly what happened with the most famous 1995 1 cent that took the auction world by storm. Now beyond the double die, there are other fascinating error possibilities tied to the 1995 penny, like die cracks which appear as raised lines across the coin's surface, planchet flaws where the blank metal disc had impurities or defects before striking, and even clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing because of a misfeed in the blank cutting machine. Each of these errors tells a story about the minting process and increases the intrigue around the coin. And while most error coins are worth only modest premiums, in rare cases where multiple errors combine, the value multiplies exponentially. Now add to that the human psychology of collecting. People love owning something nobody else has. It's not just about the metal or the design, it's about exclusivity, prestige, and the thrill of having a piece of history that slipped through the cracks, literally, and for the ultra-wealthy collectors who compete at high-profile auctions, money is no object when it comes to securing the crown jewel of a collection. And that is why we see valuations like $7.13 million attached to a coin with an original face value of just 1 cent, because it is not about the denomination, it is about rarity, error, history, and desirability. And this is where the story gets even more fascinating, because thousands of people across America still sift through jars of change, hoping to find a 1995 double-die penny in their possession, and while most will find only common examples, every so often a gem-quality error coin is pulled from obscurity, breathing new life into the legend. So what should you look for if you want to try your luck? The first giveaway is doubling on Liberty. The word should appear with a noticeable shadow effect. The letters look doubled rather than crisp. Check also "In God We Trust" at the top of the coin, where the doubling effect is strongest, and if you find this in your collection, even if circulated, you're looking at potentially hundreds of dollars, and if you find one in pristine condition, you may have something truly special. But here's where the dream grows, because among those rare double dies there might exist even rarer subvarieties. Perhaps struck slightly off-center or on a transitional planchet left over from previous years, or with dramatic die cracks and cuds. Those are the kinds of coins that escalate to the $1 million mark and beyond, and the legendary $7.13 million 1995 1 cent represents the ultimate version of this dream, combining rarity, condition, and dramatic error in a way that makes it essentially priceless to collectors. Now let's think about the broader implications of this story. It tells us that mistakes are not always failures. Sometimes mistakes create treasures. The U.S. Mint's error in 1995 gave us one of the most iconic error coins of the modern era, and it also sparked new interest in coin collecting among everyday people who realized that treasures could be hiding in plain sight, and that is part of why coins like this command such attention. They are cultural symbols, pieces of art, accidents of history, and gateways into a world where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. And as we reflect on this incredible journey from a 1 cent coin struck in 1995 to a multi-million-dollar collectible, it's impossible not to feel the thrill of possibility. Maybe right now in someone's pocket change there lies another hidden gem waiting to be discovered, and that is the magic of numismatics. It's not just about old coins, it's about stories, history, errors, and the people who chase them. So the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it, take a closer look, because you never know when you might be holding a piece of history worth millions. And with that we conclude today's exploration of the legendary 1995 1 cent valued at $7.13 million, an incredible reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins and want to hear more stories of ordinary money turning into extraordinary fortunes, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us on the next adventure into the hidden treasures of history.